So now let's get into the news. The first news story is that the Dark Crystal prequel series is set to arrive at Netflix. There will be 10 episodes of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. This is being done and it's debut later this year. And it's a fantasy adventure show from the Jim Henson Company. From what I heard from other things, it sounds like his daughter is sort of like behind it a little bit. And yeah, so I have not.
Brian Henson and Lisa Henson, I think, have both been sort of upward portions of the company for a while. Have been anything to do with the Henson Muppets or anything.
Yeah, so this is where again, and I'm not blaming the fact that it came out in '82 and I didn't arrive on this earth until '89. I'm not blaming that because I have the VHS out in my wall of movies out in the living room. I've never seen the Dark Crystal, or I do not remember seeing the Dark Crystal. So yeah, can one of you guys explain what the Dark Crystal is? I'm assuming it's about a crystal that is dark.
Jackie, you actually did research. Now, I've seen the Dark Crystal, but I saw it as an adult, so I didn't have the attachment to it. Same thing with Labyrinth. I didn't get to watch them as a child, and I think that there's something that changes how you react to it if you see it for the first time as a kid, and certainly as when it came out in the early '80s. I also know that the Dark Crystal apparently came out at the same time as E.T., which is part of the reason why it didn't reach a level of success that they wanted it to. So, but if you want to describe it, I'm going to guess, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you might like a movie starring puppets.
Maybe. No, actually, I did watch this as a child, and I have not watched it since. And one of my longtime boyfriend / fiancés lived together. It didn't work out, but we still, long time people who, he and I were both geeks and we loved Star Wars. We watched about a lot of things, but I remember him really being into the Dark Crystal and telling me about it and like, really? And he's like, you got to watch it again. And I'm like, really? Do I have to? And I didn't the entire time. But I've really, particularly in the last 2 years, have been going back to anything that is puppet or stop motion. The Labyrinth on the other side, however, I did absolutely love. But I also really like David Bowie from kind of an early age, not because he was during my time period so much, but he was like influences on people that I really liked. And so I really enjoyed that. And I know that film very well. This is one I didn't really get into so much, but I realized, oh shit, I really need to go back today and watch it. So I started watching it again this morning, and I have not watched the last 15 minutes, which is sad. But I know where the story goes. I know about the story. And yes, it is very slow. And it would be hard for someone in a modern age today to watch and get into. But on a puppetry end and a set design and all of the sort of creative like fantasy world, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and you should definitely just give it a run through when you've got the time to sit back and watch it. It moves very slow, and honestly, I learned a lot from it on the end of trying to create stories that are based on puppets and having a puppet act and interact, because there are a couple of main characters. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched, but there's Gelfings. There's these two. There's a man and a woman Gelfing, and they're very young. And it's about their sort of race and how they need to get the shard crystals to change the dark crystal to make the world right again in a way without But those puppets, when they interact and talk, I'm looking at them and I'm looking very closely at their at their mouths, and because I've been criticized on YouTube. I remember the worst criticism I ever got on YouTube was, why isn't the lip syncing up with the audio? And my response is, well, I did it within 2 hours. So right. I'm sorry. I thought when I rendered it, it worked, but it didn't. And most of the time I do sync it up, right? But in here, in watching this, it's not something that in our day and age we would have the tolerance for, because we're so used to all the CGI and everything that you just can't, you almost can't escape the fact that you are watching a puppet video or a movie. And so for me, it was nice. It was wonderful. I enjoyed my viewing this morning because of that. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So I don't know how well it fits to modern age, but I love the fact that they're going to do not just a remake, but a prequel, and add to the adventure, which may make people enjoy the old one better after they've watched the prequel. Or at least that's my thought. But I can go into the story and stuff, but I don't think we need to really, right? I don't know.
No, yeah, it sounds cool. Again, as the one who hasn't seen it, and I will point out that it's being shot in England, or in the UK, and it'll feature Jim Henson's Creature Shop and Brian Frode, the original features conceptual designer, and then it'll be produced by the Jim Henson Company and executive produced by Louis Leterrier, who did, I believe, both Now You See Me movies, if not just the first one. Lisa Henson and Haley Stanford will also be executive producing. Rita Perugi will serve as a producer. And then the other part that I think is pretty interesting here is Leterrier is also going to direct the series, while Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews and who they did Life in a Year, and Javier Grillo Marxausch. I'm butchering names left and right here.
No, you're doing really good. I thought about this too. I looked up a lot of these people just to make sure I knew a little bit more about their puppetry background.
Yeah.
And you're doing really good.
He wrote on Lost. They'll pen the script and serve as co-executive producers. So yeah, it's funny. You're saying things about this that I was saying about my last pick for the ElseViews, where I talked about a British TV show called the Keith and Patty's Picture Show, where they did within a half hour, it was part documentary, part recreating Ghostbusters, and they tried the whole time. Keith Lemon, he's going, we gotta do everything practical. It's just gotta be practical, and all that, and they get to the part in Ghostbusters where they're fighting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but so they go to CG and it's 8-bit because it's a TV show and they don't have the budget to do big thing, and they're like, all right, we'll go back to practical, and it's Mr. Blobby, and I just had to laugh at that just because of how how funny that was. And then Jackie brings this up and I'm like, wait a minute, you could take that for here, but no. And then a Labyrinth sequel. I mean, I haven't seen Labyrinth. It is both of these are on the list of things.
You haven't seen the Labyrinth?
No, I haven't. The bad part is, and this might be the movie because, like I said, I got an Xbox One back here and I got the One S, so I can do 4K. And I'm thinking I might do the Labyrinth in 4K. That might be what I buy as, hey, look, it's 4K and all that. But yeah, I mean,
and again, I think it would be if you're really into, because I love CGI and actually I think I'm kind of burnt on it because I had an ex-boyfriend who does a lot of CGI for. He did the Cowboys and Aliens film and a couple other things. The Men Who Stare at Goats and some other things, and so I saw him kind of craft all that and I don't know, it just kind of made me, at that time even, it made me a little sick of what it was taking away from the art of stop motion and animation. Yeah. And now that I like him, well, I mean, he was a little crazy, and I'm not just saying that because I'm crazy, you know, because there's always two sides to every story. But however, like now, like I really like, I don't know, I so much more feel that, and when I see a movie where I think we've kind of passed the threshold where there's no longer a question of whether can you have a stop motion or puppetry animation show without having some CGI, or you know, like I feel like yes, of course we have to, but it still makes me a little sick, and because I find myself not really enjoying the film and looking into it and wondering what part is what, you know, and I think I've got a very good eye for it. I was, you know, also a certified projectionist for years, so I've got that kind of eye to look for things on the screen. However, I just feel like it kind of, I don't know. I love the idea that there's going to be a new puppet movie, although I know this one definitely, as I said, is going to have everything mixed in, and there's going to be basically they're going to have one or two puppets with a green screen. It's going to be the same sort of bullshit.
And here's honestly my hope, and it's to go to The Force Awakens. They could have done The Force Awakens like they did the prequels. You know, where you got digital Yoda, you got all this stuff, digital, with the exception of, are they human? Well, then here's the actor. Sort of deal. But they didn't. They had, like, which is where you also got a lot of the great cameos, like Simon Pegg playing, Star Wars nerds are gonna bitch at me about the name, but the dude who's like Rey's owner or whatever, and all that, and he's in the costume in the desert, trying not to have a heat stroke and stuff like that. And, you know, you see scenes, because I remember watching The Force Awakens, going, what's CG, what's practical, you know, and all that stuff. And so that's
doesn't
where
that
I
kind
think,
of interfere with your experience a little bit?
No,
okay.
Because my love has always been for filmmaking. You know, like it's one of those things. Like I always tell.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
It's one of those things. Like if I had, you know, I could do anything in the world, I would be a filmmaker. And so that part intrigues me. It's one of those things. Like I tell people, and now it's increased. But if I could go on a set and see one scene being made, it would be the scene in Cabin in the Woods where all the creatures get out and it's just killing all the workers, and you just cut into I think it's the kid, it's like the two of the teenagers are in this office, and you just see buckets of blood being thrown at the window and all that. It's like I'd want to see stuff like that, and you know, just to see how exactly they did that and why they did what they did and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for me, what happened with the prequels was not even so much the CGI aspect of it itself being the problem, but it was the fact that you had real actors that were interacting with sticks, and you didn't have a buy-in. And when you're watching it, as good as the animation and everything was for it, you didn't feel a sense of peril for them. You didn't feel any kind of connection to them in the story. I think CGI is great when it's used like MSG, when it's a flavor enhancer, when it's something that you add in a little bit here and there, but it doesn't take up the entirety of everything in the meal, because it's not something that you're going to be able to stomach very much of, and you're not going to feel connected to it. You're not going to feel like this exists. You're just constantly looking for the fakeness of it. But when you use practical effects and CGI together the right way, and the people who are in the film, and they have a sense of weight to the things that they're interacting with, then it works out, to me personally, a lot better. So I'm perfectly comfortable watching something that's completely animated, but I'm not as comfortable watching something where it's a person that's in something that's all animated, unless we're talking about a Roger Rabbit situation, that's part of the charm of it.
Yeah, and the other side is that, because Evan's asking what about motion capture,
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, the technology is getting better, and before I get to motion capture, Corey, you're hitting on a point that I want to echo, because that's why I can't watch the Spy Kids movies. The Spy Kids movies came out when I was a teenager, when I was like a younger teenager, and it was one of those, like, at the time I'm like, okay, yeah, these were cool, entertaining movies, but now to watch them, like, when they're on Cartoon Network and I got nothing else to do, and to see, like, especially Spy Kids 3, where it was set, like, in a video game, I'm like, it does not hold up. The movies that usually hold up more, like, yeah, you can always tell it was made in this time period, but not, the effects look dated, especially for a movie that came out about 10 or just a little over 10 years ago. Like it was the case with Spy Kids, but it's the stuff that uses, like you said, the effects as more of a seasoning, not the whole fucking meal. But yeah, and motion capture, I mean, honestly, motion capture has gotten so good. The thing I think that needs to get better, if they're going to use it more and more, is using a younger version of an actor, like you've seen in Civil War and Tron Legacy and the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and there was another movie that used it as well, that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And like, that has to get better, because then it's like, I think Guardians was the closest with the technology, but even looking at the previews for
I felt a little skeeved out by the use in Guardians 2, probably because I've seen that person younger a lot, and it didn't look right. And I'm not a huge fan of the taking the person and making them younger in these things. It's I get why they're doing it, but it seems like Marvel especially has been leaning on that a lot. Because once they did it the first time, which the first time that I remember seeing it was in Ant-Man, and then in Civil War, and now in Guardians 2, it just seems that they keep doing that, and I'm not totally buying into it. And I know a lot of people had issues with the cameo scene at the end of Rogue One. I had issues with the entirety of a character's usage in Rogue One that was a little bit different. Because, again, it made me feel like, all right, there's all these people that are actual people going around, and then there's this not person. And every time I see them up on the screen, I can't get my brain
which one in Rogue One was that? I'm sorry that I don't know, because I've only watched... well, no, go ahead. Which one was it?
It's, so what Corey is alluding to, and spoilers now for people...
You can just tell me the name of the character.
Yeah, no. There's two. There's two. The one he's referring to is Princess Leia. Because
yes, of course.
And then, but then also,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you go down spoiler time.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. This is the one that bothered me.
The one that bothered me was, and I think it was telegraphed a lot in people, anybody who's talked about the movie, was the Grand Moff Tarkin. Because that actor had been dead. In fact, by the day that I saw it, they were both dead, so that was even weirder. But at least Carrie Fisher had been alive when filming happened.
Yes.
But the entirety of me watching Grand Moff Tarkin is, I was looking at it like, okay, here's all of these actors, and then here's a cutscene from Diablo. It didn't quite click for me, and I know a lot of people didn't have as many problems as I had with it, because they weren't de-aging the person. They were taking somebody who we had all seen in the other Star Wars movies and just digitally recreating him. But it always bugged me. Like his mouth, when you look in his mouth, it looked very just black and hollow, as opposed to what you would actually see inside of a mouth. There are details and things that the eye can't keep from noticing, especially when it's on a large screen in a movie theater. So I was constantly taken out from that, very differently than I was by seeing aliens and robots running around. Because those are things that are already outside of the realm of normal for me. Like, I see an alien and it's like, okay, I've never seen that alien before in real life, so the movie's kind of showing me what that would look like. but this human being that I've seen, I'm reacting differently to.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I guess the point I was making about the about this film and what I do like about Dark Crystal is that it's heavy puppet with some green screen, and the green screen is so obvious, but I really love and adore just full visual stop motion. I love the kind of the just sort of the genuine uniqueness of seeing certain items, and you could tell fully that there is no CGI, and I would dream for a movie like that with, say, on the level of Dark Crystal, but I know that you can't in this day and age. You can't do it without CGI. But like I think with the full-on stop motion, I think it's kind of regulated now to just short films. And there was actually one that I watched recently that I absolutely loved, and I think it's called The Maker film, and it won several awards. It's like a 5-minute video you can watch on YouTube, but it's beautiful, and it's this guy creating another stop motion puppet, and so it's like I don't know, like I guess particularly in my world, I don't ever see myself working on anything huge. I see myself as keeping my sanity by doing the stuff that I do, just so that I don't lose my goddamn mind. I mean, which is why I podcast, which is why I do all these other things. And then I have my day job, so, but when it comes to these films and they use the stop motion or even puppetry, it just hurts when CGI has to take over and save the day. And then, like you were saying, even with Rogue One, like just to save the day by bringing back characters. Like, do we even need actors anymore? Like, do they?
Right.
How long do they need to even exist? Like, we're always going to have a Princess Leia. Carrie Fisher, even though she died last December, she's going to be around forever.
Well, that's the thing, is that it kind of went back and forth after Rogue One, and when she passed away. Is she going to wind up in Episode 9, even though she hadn't filmed member stuff? And there was a moment of, oh yes, we have what we need for that, and then it was a backtrack of, no, we're not going to do that. And I don't even think it was a matter of rights with the family and everything. I think that they had the clearance if they wanted the clearance, and they just decided that it was better not to do that.
Yeah.
Because
now, am I the only one?
It feels like poor taste to me in a way.
Yeah. So am I the only one who was, I'll even throw it on the earth here, who was okay with both the Princess Leia and Grand Moff Tarkin roles in Rogue One?
I don't think you're the only one. I just know that when I watched it, the Grand Moff Tarkin, for me, took me out of the picture. The Leia one didn't bother me as much, but I've heard quite a few people say the reverse.
I think the reason why is because I saw, and it could be a special feature on the Blu-ray that I haven't gotten to yet, but I heard that, or at least I think the reason why is the actress who played the stand-in for Leia looked enough alike, like Carrie Fisher, had the similar bone structure that Carrie Fisher did when she was 18, 19 years old and filmed the first Star Wars, that it made it look a little bit better. And I didn't really see that with the guy who was the stand-in for Grand Moff Tarkin. Like, it was clear, like, oh, clearly he's, he looks nothing like Grand Moff Tarkin, so that's probably why it was a little bit more jagged.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I had none of that. I didn't have any problem with that at all. I didn't have any problem with Rogue One. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it all right. I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it. Which I probably should have, because I have a long Star Wars background. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I found that it was a nice departure from the usual Skywalker Jedi stuff. Which is what I want. I want an expanded Star Wars universe, although they still had to kind of keep it close to those things, and then they introduce some of those characters towards the end of it. But I at least felt like this is a first step towards doing something new in Star Wars in the films that we haven't had yet, and that got me excited. But then the follow-ups are we're getting a young Han Solo movie, and that's as much as I love Han Solo, and is certainly probably the greatest character from all of that universe.
Yeah,
I don't need a young Han Solo movie. As much as I like the actors and the choices that they've made for casting in that, and I'm sure it'll be a great movie, that is not what I was looking for. And I don't ever in my life need someone else to play Han Solo besides Harrison Ford.
very good point. If they wanted a young Han Solo, they should have done it back in 1979 or
Although this is probably a better
1984.
move than using a digital facelift on him,
Yes,
and having him running around.
Yeah. That's a little crazy.
Why does 20-year-old Solo look like he's running around in an 80-year-old body?
There are enough starving actors in Hollywood who could do a great job. Just give them a new part, and yes, create a whole new adventure for us, please. Yeah.
And that's the thing that I like about the new films is that I think they were second guessing themselves a little bit in the first one, but as they go forward, the more concentration on Rey and Finn and those new characters, I'm more excited about the new characters. But again, they're tying it in some way to the original stories, which I guess they have to if they want to finish off this 9-picture story. But then after that, as long as we don't get any more Roman numerals, we should be able to get new stuff.
Yeah. All right. The next story that we have here is that Tom Hardy is going to star as Venom in the Venom movie with Ruben Fleischer to direct. Now, Tom Hardy is, as you might know, I think he's the third or fourth person to be. He'll be both a Marvel character and a DC character, because he was Bane in Batman The Dark Knight Rises, sorry. And he's going to be in this the Venom movie with Zombieland Ruben Fleischer on board to direct. And this is all coming, when Spider-Man Homecoming is still 2 months away, or still a month away. Sorry, I forgot this article's a little older. And I guess the with how the article describes, the talks to the directors and the actors ramped up after Hardy exited J.C. Chandor's action thriller Triple Frontier, and Sony saw this like, hey, there's our window, grab him. And Fleischer's done, like I said, the Zombieland movie. He's I think he's done some other TV stuff too, but I can't think of exactly what it is. And then Scott Rosenberg, who wrote for Jumanji, and Jeff Pinkner, who wrote The Dark Tower, a little movie coming out here soon.
I'm assuming Scott Rosenberg is the new Jumanji, or are we talking about the original Jumanji?
Yeah, I think so.
Whoa! There's a new Jumanji
coming out in 2017. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson.
Oh no!
It's so okay. So real quick with that one,
Go. Sorry.
It stars The Rock, Karen Gillan, I think Jack Black, and then another person that they show in the pictures that I can't remember.
The screamer, Chris, the guy who was just in the CIA
Kevin
movie
Hart.
with The Rock. Kevin Hart, yeah.
Okay, so and from what it looks like with the pictures, because there was the picture of them in the jungle, and there was like big kerfuffle over the fact that Karen Gillan, like, this isn't feminism because she's wearing this Tomb Raider-esque outfit and blah 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 blah. And then they're like, okay, hold up, let's look at the script first, morons, before you get all blah 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 and stuff. And so I think he's writing that one, but I think the Jumanji one is supposed to take is supposed to be based off of the board game that's in the first movie, that's in the Jumanji movie.
Wow.
So like, they're all playing the board pieces that you play in the movie. So that's why they say she's, wearing the
Sure.
crop top or whatever shirt
Yeah.
is, shows her midriff. And God, I sounded so old there.
I mean, I'm looking at the images of it now, and I mean, she doesn't look like. Come on, she's not wearing a goddamn bikini.
Right,
Yeah,
and I don't know that you can say because of her outfit she's not a feminist. As a male feminist, I think it's up to her whatever the hell she wants to wear and whatever she feels comfortable in wearing in a film. And yes, it may be something that we look at, and she's very attractive to the male gaze.
I mean,
but
honestly, isn't Lara Croft kind of a feminist?
Exactly.
I mean, I always digged her because she's a badass woman who can, I don't know. All right, sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, that is 100% right, though. That is exactly it. I know a lot of women who played the Tomb Raider games because it was finally, here's a game that stars a woman in the lead role, and she kicks ass all the way through it, and it's like what guys have had for years, but finally there's one for us. And she wasn't stupid, and it wasn't just, I mean, there was some sexualizing her, and certainly the internet liked to go fucking nuts with it, but that's not what it was all about. She was a well, that's going to be a terrible word to say. She was a complete character. Let's go with that. And she was intelligent, and she was an action character and an intelligent character.
Ass. Right.
Yeah, and the comics and everything.
I mentioned in the notes that we could talk about Wonder Woman if we ever get to that. It's the same thing with Wonder Woman. But however, I think because I'm looking at the screenshot that or whatever they have on IMDb for the film, and looking at the 4 of the main characters here. If anybody should be insulted, it should be Jack Black, because he looks like shit. And Jack Black is one of my longtime heroes from Tenacious D and Mr. Show with Bobby David and all that. So, Jack Black, man, he's really playing up this character here with a big, I don't know. It just, so yeah, I mean, they all look like cartoon characters. And I think that's what they're supposed to look like, right? Kind of, in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So back to the Venom article. No, it's fine. It's fine, because I was like, wait, this dude's been around for a while. If he wrote the, Robin Williams Jumanji, but Corey brought it up right. So this is Sony expanding their universe while they still have the rights to the Spider-Man, the world of Spider-Man, while he's being shared with Marvel.
But as it's kind of been made out, is that this isn't actually connected to Spider-Man, at least not yet. So it's not going to interact with Spider-Man at this point in time, probably not until, at the very least, Sony's deal with Marvel stops. Because then they're going to have this question of, well, why is there a Venom and then there's Spider-Man, but we're not going to involve some of the other characters from the Marvel Universe? Or does Venom then connect to the Marvel Universe? They're trying to keep this sectioned off until the point where they no longer have to, because of rights things. So what it's been proposed, and I don't know the background of this completely, is that the Venom movie and possibly their Black Cat and Silver Sable films are all going to be in their own Spider-Man without Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I was telling Beatmaster when we found this story last week, a Venom movie without Spider-Man to connect to it, to me, feels like the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. Because it has no bearing to what the character actually is then. And the whole point of Venom is it's built around his interactions with Peter Parker that makes him what he is, then becoming Eddie Brock, and then the actual vengeance against Peter Parker. So I don't get it. As a comic book fan, as not a huge Venom fan, but certainly as someone who wants to see things go from the comics to the screen that make the most sense, I don't understand what the deal is here.
Yeah, I mean, my big thought right now is the fact that, like you said, this is, you know, Venom without Spider-Man. This is, and I think it's because of the fact that I'm of the mindset where it's like, let's just, you know, give Marvel all its toys back and,
Yes.
you know, let them, you know, create these stories.
That's why it started.
That's how I know I've properly made a woman like laugh is if she snorts. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. But I think on like, and I hate to use a. Sorry, I had to go find Beats' quote or Beats' response to what.
No, you didn't. No, you
what
didn't.
Corey had said.
Absolutely did not.
No, I did. I had to because I'm like, wait, what was it? Is it something I could say? But no, I mean, I think with the Venom or the Venom movie, the Silver Sable and Black Cat movie, these are gonna be Sony's last attempts at proving to Marvel that they can tell good stories with these characters. Otherwise, Marvel, aka Disney, is going to be like, here's money, give us our stuff back.
I don't know that Sony would have a problem with cut us a big enough check, but it's a question of what's a big enough check. It's not they have to prove to Marvel. They have to prove it to moviegoers. They have to prove it to people who go to see these films that they can sell a movie without Marvel's hand in it. And while that initially worked at the very beginning of the Marvel universe in film, and the Spider-Man standalone and the X-Men standalone and all these things, they had their successes at their time and certainly big successful films, but the returns on them became lower and lower as we saw how Marvel handled the characters versus these other companies handling the characters. And then there's Fox, who's had zero success with Fantastic Four, essentially, and still hasn't determined that they should hand that back over. They just don't know. They let Daredevil go back over, and you look at the success of the Netflix shows that have happened with that. They let Blade go back over, and we haven't seen Blade yet, but we got Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season, and the reactions for that portion of it were very good. So certainly there is an amount of, can Sony ever accomplish what Marvel can accomplish? Do they always have to go hand in hand with this completely other company just because they have perpetual rights until they stop making the movies? Or is it always going to be like, we'll just do whatever we can to get the bucks that we need to let it pay off in the end, and just keep throwing shit at the screen? Maybe. Sony's not going to give up the IPs without doing every last trick they can to make it a success. But what they haven't shown us so far, that one of the tricks in their arsenal is making a great Spider-Man movie beyond the ones that Raimi did, the first two. Opinion. Completely opinion. I did not enjoy the Spider-Man films.
No, I mean, and you're not that far off because, I did enjoy the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I enjoyed them. It's one of those things, like, I liked the... Like, I like parts from both, and it's like, if you combine them both together, then you would have had, in my opinion, a perfect Spider-Man movie. And this is coming from, Spider-Man is the first superhero I really got behind as a kid. Like, he's at the top of my list and stuff like that. So, I mean, to see this, it's sort of like, that's why I'm always like, come on, Sony, just give Marvel back their toys so they can make some good fucking shit. That's why I'm always like that.
It's also, to me, I always get frustrated of, if you don't make something that's true to the origins and the best parts of the characters, then why are you doing anything with that license at all? Why not just make something new? And we're in an age of everything is a giant IP farm, and Marvel's part of the biggest IP farm, being part of Disney. You know, Disney has now bought out 2 of the largest three, if you include Indiana Jones, I think is part of that. But certainly the 2 largest franchises between Star Wars and Marvel, and then
Making
their
a
own
whole
Disney
theme park.
franchises.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's Disney shouldn't be an IP farm like that. And as Beatmaster's pointing out, Disney also owns Pixar, but Disney utilizing Pixar is part of, I think, what's killing Pixar, which is that they've just gone to let's do more and more sequels, which was something that Pixar did not really do a lot of before getting acquired by Disney. They wanted, at first, they kept saying, Pixar, you should do a direct to VHS sequel to a Toy Story right after it came out. They're like, no. If we do another Toy Story movie, it's going to be released in the theater and it's going to be just as good or better than the first one. And they didn't do the things that DC or that Disney was doing, which was just like, oh, you like The Little Mermaid? Well, here's a prequel to Little Mermaid direct to VHS. You like Beauty and the Beast? Well, here's another Beauty and the Beast thing that's kind of like just a throwaway story. The second Aladdin, that didn't even have Robin Williams in it. It just, they didn't care because it was an easy cash grab for them. And Pixar wasn't willing to do that. But now we're getting, not only did we have Cars 2, but we're getting a Cars 3. We had Monsters University. We had, what are the other ones that they've been just pumping out sequels to? And now we're getting a Toy Story 4 after Toy Story 3 put the perfect pin on that.
Finding Dory.
Yeah, that's right.
Finding Dory.
Which is perfectly sweet, but nowhere near what the first film was. And Pixar didn't used to be that way. And certainly the head of Pixar now being a bigwig in Disney, his focus has been changed. And Disney's own properties, the new things that they've done, have been doing better and better. But they've been inventing new stuff themselves, which is great. But now they're also, at the same time, like every animated film we've ever done that we don't have to pay the rights to, let's do another one of those. Let's do Beauty and the Beast live action. Let's do Cinderella live action. I don't really cotton to that. And if Sony wanted to do anything, they should be creating their own properties so that they don't have to always have Marvel nipping at their heels. And so that they could not have to constantly worry about, we have to put it on another Spider-Man movie. It's been 5 years and the contract's going to bust on us. Well, then get something that you don't have to worry about doing that with. So you don't have to have a movie out there just to have it out there and see if it tanks or not. Just make a goddamn new thing and make a great film. And if you want to make your own superhero movies, make your own superhero movies. But you know who did a really amazing job making a superhero movie when nobody else would make one? The Wachowskis, when they did The Matrix. The Matrix was we're going to make our own superhero films. This is how we're going to tell that story. And nobody was willing to make a superhero movie at the time. And they said, well, this is what we're going to do.
Isn't there going to be a remake of The Matrix?
Yes, but not with them.
Oh, okay.
At this point. But if you haven't,
but
check out their Sense8, which is really
they're
good.
also really busy with Sense8. I mean, working on that, killing that. I mean, that's such a, like Corey said, if you haven't seen it, check it out. They just released the rest of season 2 because they did the interesting thing of, instead of doing a special, like just a standalone, Christmas holiday special, it was the beginning of season 2 and all that. But yes, like, go check that out. It's on Netflix right now. Jackie, what are your thoughts on Tom Hardy as Venom?
I don't know. I'm okay with it, I guess, because it just I don't know. It seems like every every year or every 2 years we need a new Spider-Man, or spinoff, or and no, but the definitely that whole weird dynamic of Spider-Man being the crossover between the two universes. I don't know. It's just it almost seems like a cop out in many ways that how or different the different movie companies are using it as a way to gather both, like, you know, because they know that either, I mean, the whole Marvel versus DC is so, as I call it, an East Coast versus West Coast experience. Like
now more than ever.
And it sucks. I don't want to fucking hear it, guys. Like, I mean, and so but that's exactly what it's become. And oh, I had a note for Wonder Woman that I wondered if she was getting a little bit of backlash because she's DC or whatever, but who knows? I mean, I don't really care. It's perfectly fine, but no, I mean, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really have any other thoughts on it. I wasn't really familiar with that character. I definitely did see. What was it? Was Spider-Man 3 or the
yeah. The Spider-Man 3 is one where
right.
Topher Grace is Venom. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's fine. That's fine. Just do your thing and roll with that character.
Okay, so you've seen. So I'll ask you this because you've seen Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be and I hate to say it, but that is going to be a more accurate interpretation of the comic book version of Venom than this Venom movie.
Mm.
How do you feel about that? Because that's where I'm a little leery, because in the comics and in the TV show from the 90s that I grew up watching, it was one of those, like, okay, Venom came from space and got on Spider-Man. That's why he looks like Spider-Man, but
right.
in black and white.
Right. Well, I don't know. I just, at this point, I've kind of given up. My hands are in the air. Like, like there's just gonna be this. I don't think it's going to stop. And I don't know. I think it kind of almost parallels the way that there are so many shows, there's so many films, there's so much entertainment out there, and then there's now more niches that people can get into, and I kind of feel like it's just sort of an expansion of that, like, I mean, that's why we have a Wonder Woman film. We wouldn't have had one otherwise, but now there's room for it. But 10, 15, or in the 90s, we wouldn't have had room for it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. My thoughts are not very intelligent or smart or on point on this, but I don't know. It could be the Jim Beam I'm drinking.
What the problem is not so much even that Venom exists in a movie outside of Spider-Man, which itself is ridiculous, and that Black Cat and Silver Sable are going to also have to deal with being Spider-Man characters in non-Spider-Man films, or that Spider-Man is kind of torn between two worlds, like Access from the Amalgam universe when they crossed over Marvel and DC. It's really the fact that everybody feels right now that they need to create giant franchises to compete with what Marvel has done in their movie properties. If Marvel was making movies that weren't Marvel superheroes, maybe it would be a little bit different. But all Marvel does is concentrate on taking their IPs and making this giant Marvel universe. Now, how that's going to work going forward in a few years when everything needs to reboot because so many actors are going to leave these parts, I don't know. But Warner Brothers has the capability of doing that because they own DC. It makes complete sense to do that. In fact, it's one of those things. They've struggled to launch a Justice League movie before because they weren't doing that. They were just trying to create a Justice League film and not including the person who was playing Batman at the time, Christian Bale, because he didn't want to be involved in that. He only wanted to do the things with the one director he was already working with. They didn't include the Superman that they were working with at the time in Brandon Routh, which is probably a good idea. But now they've got this jump from Man of Steel where they're going forward and they're saying, yeah, we're doing what Marvel's doing, for good or ill. But at least it makes sense they're doing that. But for these other companies, like Universal is doing the stuff with their Universal Monsters, their Dark Universe or whatever they're calling it. Yeah, which is because we own all the Universal monster rights, so you're going to see the Mummy and Dracula and Jekyll and Hyde and the Creature from the Black Lagoon probably, and all these other characters intermingle in a way that whether or not it makes sense, but we want to have this giant balloon franchise. And that's the thing that I find frustrating, is because in some ways it doesn't make sense from a story perspective. It's just we want what Marvel has. We want to do what they're doing because look at this success they're having. They're not thinking about the fact that Marvel built that thing to be successful by starting small and growing in a smart way, and because those characters all interacted with each other for 70 years in the comics first. It's like, no, we'll just figure it out. We'll just make something that'll connect them all. In the Universal's case, it's Jekyll and Hyde running some organization, even though that makes no sense for the character. But let's just throw it in there. Let's just see what happens. So you don't get a mummy movie that's going to be a mummy movie. You get a mummy movie with a spine on it attached that is this whole organization run by this completely other character that then has to lean into, and next we're going to meet the Bride of Frankenstein. And then next we're going to meet the Invisible Man and all these things. And it's like, but what if I just got a good Invisible Man movie? You know, what if I just got a good Bride of Frankenstein movie? Although it seems like there's been no shortage of tries at making those movies, and they haven't really been that good. The Dracula that they launched just a couple years ago was supposed to be a part of this, and that thing tanked terribly. So back to the drawing board with that. It's kind of like what could have happened with Man of Steel, but they just said, let's run with it anyways. I think it's silly to try to create a whole universe after or before the fact of trying to make a good movie. And it's one thing to say, hey, we had success with Cheers, so after Cheers, we're also going to do this other thing called Frasier. Sure, you know, because Cheers was great, and I know that it has to end, but I'd love to see more of something from these creators and maybe some of those characters. So I'll follow Frasier over.
Oh, I love how you're very careful not to compare it to Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because you know I'll get on your ass.
but that
because
is
Better
exactly
Call Saul is a prequel, not a sequel.
No, Better Call Saul is not a prequel. It is
it takes place.
Prequel. It takes place
before.
It's a sequel and it's concurrent. It is all of those things. So, anyways, but that's for another discussion or another time.
Gregor, it's a little bit more like Sin City or like Pulp Fiction, because it's stuff that happens both before, after, and concurrently, which is cool. But again, there were people who were hungry for more from the people who created Breaking Bad, and maybe they did not realize that they would like a Better Call Saul.
I mean, on my end, yes, I was hungry for the extra stuff on Breaking Bad. I loved what Terry Gilliam and Peter Gould and everybody did in the writers and the creators, all of them. I could name them all for days. I love what they did for Breaking Bad. However, what I love about Better Call Saul is it's actually even more intense. It's very more character driven, but not only that, it is it's something that is it is very unique to the original creation. It is another story on its own, and because of the focus and the way that they bring the stories together, it is something very completely different. Because now when you go back, if you go back and look at Breaking Bad, it looks like it's it looks kind of weak. Looks like weak cable television to me if you go back to the first season or so. But anyways, I'm sorry, that's for another show another time,
that's
right?
Because they spent years building experience and working in a writer's room and getting better at what they were doing.
So why not make a better story? You know,
right.
So I don't know that Frasier.
Hold on, let's say
I don't know that Frasier is better than Cheers.
Oh, I don't know that it's better, but I think it's the same sort of thing. Is that it's very good.
But I know that the show's Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
Okay, let's save the Better Call Saul talk for a little bit later here.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to get into that.
Yeah.
No, we can skip right over that when we get to that point.
Let's get to the next story, because we still got we still got 2 more news stories here, and these both should be fairly quick, which means it'll only take 3 hours.
That's the
I'm
problem
joking.
with having me on your show, is that it's going to last 5 hours.
Oh it's fine. It's great. It's great. The next story is it's a 2-parter. Black Lightning is ordered 2 series at the CW. This is the next. This is actually coming from Fox. It was originally going to be there. This is the next Greg Berlanti produced show, and then the other part of it is Black Lightning is officially not in the quote unquote Arrowverse. So basically the whole thing of this is not going to be Black Lightning is not going to be a part of, in the same universe as Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Flash, and Arrow, which I say thank you.
Well, let's back up for a second, because what they say is at this time.
True,
right?
But I look at that more as what you said earlier. Let's tell good stories. Not we don't need a 5-way crossover. We don't need a fatal 5-way match with the Dominators and all these other people. Sorry, I threw a wrestling term in there for fun. But the cool part that I have with this is some of the stars in here. I'm like, all right, this is cool. So Black Lightning is going to be played by former Heart of Dixie star Cress Williams, and then also in there are some people that you guys may not know, but if you are, younger, you might know them. Like Nafessa Williams, China Ann McClain, who's a former Disney Channel star, and Christine Adams. So I'm assuming China Ann McClain is going to play one of Cress Williams' daughters. But this is the whole thing is going to be based on Jefferson Pierce, a man wrestling with a secret. He's the father of 2 and the principal at a charter high school, and he's also a superhero and stuff like that. I'm really oversimplifying this, but
it's a little bit like The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Except as opposed to 2 superhero parents, he was the superhero, and he gave up being a superhero because his wife asked him to, and because they had kids, and she was afraid he was going to be killed. So he stopped it and became a principal at a school, and it's only because of how bad things have gotten in their neighborhood and how fearful he is for his family that he decides to go back into it again. And what this is a very different feeling from the other shows, which is good. It distinguishes itself because it's about a father, which is not something that we've had in a lead character on one of these shows so far. It is certainly a different place, an urban aspect, an urban world, and we've got characters of color in the leads. We've got a lot of things that's going to make it feel gritty in the way that Arrow did, but maybe not so over the top in the way that Arrow was. It's a street level hero, and Beatmaster really compared it to the Luke Cage stuff that was on Netflix recently. I think it's very interesting. I don't think that saying it's not part of the rest of the Arrowverse is 100% accurate. What I think that probably means is that it exists on its own until it doesn't, which does not mean it's on a separate plane, a separate universe like Supergirl is, because Supergirl actually was in a different universe. She was on CBS. I feel like it's more, we're not concentrating on a crossover or any of that in the first season because we want to let this establish itself. But it could very easily get there. I don't think it's impossible for them to do.
Yeah.
If they want to, and if it makes sense for the stories, as long as they concentrate on it for the stories. Because the crossover stuff, while fun, and certainly the most fun I've had this season of any of the CW superhero shows, is not great. It's just a good time.
No, yeah.
But it's not great storytelling. It's a lot of force feeding it to make it work in that button. But this is a cool character. It's certainly a good concept. It brings something new to it, and I like what I see of the potentials of some of the stories going forward. And Black Lightning's a great character in and of itself. And if they do grow the show to have more superpower characters, it makes a certain degree of sense to have him form an Outsiders team, since that's classically one of the connections that Black Lightning has had in the comics.
Yeah. So, real quick before we get Jackie's opinions, I mean, I just wanted to add that I do like this. I haven't seen any of the trailers and stuff for it. I like this idea, and this is something that I think I'm going to say something that Corey, you had said a while back ago. The problem I'm starting to have with the DCW shows that we have, to borrow a phrase that Tom Merritt coined here, is that a lot of these characters are losing their core. Like Flash, on Flash's whole season, and I haven't seen the season finale that airs tomorrow, he's been more like Oliver Queen, more I've got to save my girlfriend, save my fiance, and stuff like that, and less, hey, I'm the Flash, I'm smiley, I'm just, happy-go-lucky, carefree. Well, not necessarily carefree, but, I mean, I'm happy. And, Arrow's, like, just getting so, like, more and more sour, with his outlook on life. And where it works, it also is taking it out for me with the Adrian Chase character, where I'm like, the dude's a psychopath, put an arrow in him, you would have done this. He would have been a 1-episode guy the first season. Why don't we just go back to that, and get something better storytelling in here. Supergirl's the one who's maintained her core, but at the same time, the plots are easy for me to predict. Corey, that's probably why you quit watching Supergirl, because if I can predict the plots, you're like, oh, nope, done. I already know it. I already know how it's going to end. And then Legends is the one I haven't had a lot of complaints about, but Legends is one that I'm like, okay, this is the most, okay, it's not a complaint, but it's, it's like DC's version of Doctor Who. That's how I look at Legends. So this is, I'm hoping it's going to be, it's going to be good. Now, Jackie, what is your thoughts on Black Lightning?
First of all, as you were talking, I was trying to get Tom Merritt on the phone. Because honestly, that was a very smart what you said about how he thought about the characters just kind of losing their core. And
well, no, he coined the DCW term on here.
Oh, okay.
And then that was, the rest of it was me, like they're sort of losing their core. I don't know, he might have said that before as well.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just a lot of them losing their core.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, I think that's why I haven't kind of dived in. I mean, I jumped in when Supergirl started, because first of all, she's a woman, and like I like women superhero stories, and I wanted to get into that, but I didn't really go beyond CBS, and when I went over to CW, and I don't know, it's just there are a whole lot of them, but however, this character, I wasn't familiar with Black Lightning, although I am not a big comic book person. I am to a degree, but only, I've got so many other things going on that it's kind of it's not on the level that like your listeners would appreciate, and they're probably gonna put right now in your iTunes, why is she a returning guest? Why would you bring her back?
No, that's part of the whole thing with ElseNerds is that we're all nerdy about our own things.
Yes.
Okay.
And certainly Gregor and I have a lot of commonality.
I'll talk to you about stop motion and animation.
You're a total nerd, and you get mad props from us on the stuff that you're into.
Okay,
Yes,
but
yes.
however, I do like the idea of this character.
Mhm.
I love the fact that he's a dad. I love the fact that he's from New Orleans, or New Orleans, depending on your area or your geographic location. yeah, I this is one that I might actually watch and pick up on, but I am definitely overrun by the CW characters right now, and I don't know. I just it would be hard to commit. It was hard for me to commit to Supergirl in any kind of way, even though I really wanted to.
I'm gonna say this as the person here who watches a lot of the watches the CW shows, reads 30 to 40 comic books a week and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, welcome to my world, people who are starting to get overrun, because that's how I feel with comic books. Like I was surprised at the fact that I've only got 12 comic books to read before Wednesday when I get more.
I get that.
Like
yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
one
did
of those
that
like
for 40 years, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm about to get another long box because that one's getting full. But no, I mean it's So I mean I like hearing that because, and again, I always look at my nerdiness as, if I could share bits of it, I'm going to tell with you, Jackie. Keep going with Supergirl. Because you'll get to a crossover in season 2 with the Flash.
Oh no, I already got there.
Yeah.
I skimmed through and I got to that. Yes.
Yeah. Did you watch the?
That's actually the point where I stopped. And
Okay.
I was kind of like, there's too many shows.
Well, honestly, this is what I was gonna say. So with that, if you got to, the 4-part crossover that came earlier in the year, and then just watched that week to continue on the story, because they do hit at some parts, later on, just so you're not lost. And then when it comes to the music, the Flash and Supergirl crossover in season 2, watch that, because that will then give you a better understanding of what the Flash was supposed to be in the beginning, like how they had it set up, where it's it's Barry singing and dancing. Now, he didn't really sing and dance in season 1, but I mean, you could tell he was having fun. This was, and Corey has his problems with the episode, and I understand them. I believe Corey would use a hashtag not my music meister or something like that.
No, I think it's a silly episode, but it's a cute episode, and you're absolutely right. It feels more like what the Flash had started with. In fact, I've been seeing Facebook Memories this month has been concentrating on when I posted this month of last year, the year before, when they showed the trailer for the Flash for the first time, and it was him and Oliver, and the Flash is smiling in the suit, and I'm so taken by the fact that the Flash is smiling. And even Oliver cracked a joke in the preview for it, which I thought was another thing. When Barry showed up as the Flash with Green Arrow, it lightened Green Arrow. But Green Arrow at that point in time still had joy in characters like Felicity. And that went away. They seem to be trying to break the joy out of characters that were the one things that you could rely on to bring a little lightness into what was maybe a dark storyline that week, or a dark storyline all the time on Arrow. And to lose that with Cisco and with Caitlin and Barry on the Flash just made the show a dredge to watch. And while Supergirl certainly is a more lighthearted program, which is sillier, but which is perfectly fine and suits the character, it wasn't the same to me. And I hope that they never go to that extreme with her. But doing what they did to the Flash...
Is it really fine that it suits the character? I would say not.
It does, because it's the show that they created for that character. It's been the tone consistently throughout. What happens
throughout their show,
tone. Yeah, throughout their show, and absolutely, what they were doing to Supergirl in the comics for the last 10 years before that was such a mess, because they just filled her with rage. They made her a Red Lantern for a while. She was constantly like, "I hate my cousin." She dated Lex Luthor at one point. A lot of things that they did to Supergirl in the comics was just them fudging around trying to make something to make her cool. Whereas I think the show help the comics find a better voice for the character now, because they're making her feel like a hero again. And that's what I want from Supergirl. And I don't want her to be that just because she's Superman's cousin, but there is something about wearing that S that means you have to present yourself in a certain way. And it's not an S because it's Superman.
I'm throwing up right now, but yes, you're right.
Yeah,
you are right, but I'm throwing up a little bit.
No, I completely understand. To me, it's a purity of what those characters are. I always get a little bothered, or more than a little bothered, when they try to make Superman a killer, or they try to make Superman dark, because that's not what Superman is about. That's not why Superman sold and became an icon to people.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, you can do a lot of that stuff with Batman. You can do a lot of that stuff with other characters, but you don't ruin Superman. You don't ruin Wonder Woman. You don't ruin Batman by giving him nipples on his suit and having him fight in day-glow nighttime shit with Schumacher. It's just... all of them have the things that make them work, and to break that seems unnecessary and, in the long run, stupid.
Yeah.
I guess a refreshing thing for anybody creating any kind of super hero material based off of traditional characters, I think the refreshing thing from them is that no matter what, you're going to piss somebody off. Because if you put those nipples in that costume, it's going to...
I feel like that sort of got redeemed with Lego Batman.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like that got a little bit redeemed with Lego Batman because it made a great punchline in the movie where they're like, or they put nipples, or I forget the line exactly, but they cut to George Clooney in the Bat costume with it, and I'm like, it's a great line. The kids ain't gonna get it, but I got it, and I loved it.
Fair enough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, making fun of your past mistakes is not as good as not making those mistakes in the first place.
True.
Which is not to say anything about the people who made Lego Batman, because they're the ones who got to make fun, but they're not the ones who made the mistake. But it's still the long run for the Batman character. There was
an easier job for those guys. They got to make fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're absolutely right. With a character that's been around for 75 years, you're gonna have good moments and you're gonna have bad moments, and it's impossible to please everybody, and you just make the best stories you can. But I think that there are fundamentals. There's a respect for these iconic characters that needs to exist.
Not only that, there are enough people out there that are goddamn experts on every little inch of every piece of all of these heroes. And like, if you don't fucking try to reach out to them and bring them in when you're creating the content, then you're failing. I mean, it's fine if you're just like a fan creating like fan art. Like, that's one thing. But if you're a goddamn network and you're bringing in like all these shows and you're making them your own, if you're trying to connect a major thing like DC with CW, then you goddamn better well bring in the goddamn experts. And I'm sorry, I'm done saying goddamn it. Goddamn it.
Goddamn right.
Sorry.
Corey beat me to it. God damn it, Corey, you beat me to it. Okay, and our last bit of news is one that we did talk about not covering it, but I feel like it's worth covering because of the fact that it is news, and that is, our thoughts and prayers go out to Zack Snyder and his family, because he is taking a step back from Justice League to deal with a family tragedy. He recently lost his 20-year-old daughter, and so Evan asked, do we want to cover this? I'm like, yeah, because I got things I want to say about, the fact that because they then announced shortly then after that Joss Whedon is going to come in to direct the Justice League movie, and I look at this in a similar way of the filming of the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. A great movie, a movie I love on multiple levels, but it is known as Heath Ledger's last movie because he died in the middle of filming it. And the fact that they then got
right, and they kind of honored him afterwards.
Yeah, they got Johnny Depp, Jude Law, Colin, Irish one, I forget his last name. Farrell? Yeah,
Phil?
Colin Farrell to come into this part.
Right.
I feel like that's what we're getting with this. This is not, I don't think this is going to be Zack Snyder going, I'm done making movies. I think this is like, I've got to deal with this, man.
I hope not.
And yeah, and I'll start off right now. I was like, because I had seen that, his daughter was 20. I'm like, wait, how old is Zack Snyder? When did he have her? I'm like, he's 51. What the fuck? He does not look 51.
Well, 51 is young, guys. Like,
well, yeah, but still, I mean, I'm like, I would have put Ryan Seacrest. I mean Ryan Stiles as older. I actually do mean Ryan Seacrest. I was just giving Corey shit for last week.
Thank you.
I would have put Ryan Stiles as being older than Zack Snyder, but I mean, honestly, what I say is this is good on Zack because he it's a shame that for any parent to have to bury their child. I've heard that saying in movies. I've heard it saying quite a bit of a parent is not supposed to bury their child. The child is supposed to bury their parent.
right.
And stuff like that. And so
loss on either side. Loss on either side is horrible. And this is one of those things that I have not been very complimentary to Snyder's films in the DC universe. And I take no joy in this. Absolutely not. This is one of those things. And we should be clear. Joss Whedon isn't coming in and directing the movie from scratch. Joss Whedon is coming to finish some stuff to help out on things. The movie was already filmed. They were going back in as most films do, certainly of this caliber of film, to help with some rewrites, to help with some punching stuff up, adding a little bit of depth to it, changing a few things here and there. But Joss is someone who has done script doctoring, is in his history. He's cleaned up things before. He knows how to write in someone else's voice and to keep things consistent. So Joss is already somebody who's working with Warner Brothers in a capacity as far as he was already planning on doing a Batgirl film. So he's just coming in to help keep things on track while Zack and his wife rightfully take a step away and deal with some things and while they need some healing time. And it makes absolute sense. And Zack knows how the internet is. Yeah. And said, look, I was going to keep this private because it's very tough for us to even talk about right now. But I know that if I just disappear off this film, then everybody's going to go off and rumor monger and say whatever they want to say and believe what they want to believe, and they will anyways. That's unfortunately that's how the internet is that we all get to create our own narratives however we choose to. Yeah. But
I didn't know that part. That's a goddamn shame.
Yeah, he was very forthcoming with the whys. And I appreciate Josh stepping in.
He doesn't owe us any goddamn explanation. You know what I mean? Like, he
absolutely doesn't.
Yeah.
No, but certainly because of people like me, who sit there and are critical of his work, and you say, oh well, Warner Brothers is replacing Zack Snyder with Joss Whedon, so must be a sign that they're trying to change things up, and some people are going to look at that as a win, but there's no winning in this regard.
This is why people need to fucking chill and relax when it comes to this whole.
So Jackie, I'll
take the film that someone's giving you and then fucking enjoy it.
Well, I'll give you the example here.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I'll give you the example real quick for myself. In his last DC movie that he directed with Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, a sequel to Man of Steel. Using this and then bringing in Ben Affleck's Batman to launch this DC world in the movies and all that. And I never saw the theatrical version. I saw the Ultimate edition, and then I read what was added in, and I got mad because where I did enjoy that movie, I enjoyed the Ultimate edition. It's the fact of that they added the stuff in that made it to where I enjoyed it. and then there's other things like that I had like that were there are more nitpicky, but still I'm gonna nitpick. Making Jimmy Olsen a photographer or CIA operative
let's not tear it apart right now. Let's not go into that.
Like there's like I nitpick that and all that stuff, and so it's like that's where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm harsh. I was harsh on him, but it's not. It was never like, okay, he's a bad director. It's just like that's not how I would have seen it going, sort of deal. Like a movie with about Superman and stuff like that. And so that's where I'm like, I probably would have been like, wait, what's going on? And then when it came out, but I want to read a quote here that he gave in an interview, talking about it, because he was at first, was going to come back and do, finish the stuff, and he goes, in my mind, I thought it was a cathartic thing to go back to work, to just bury myself and see if that was way through it. He said very emotionally in an interview on Monday, with his wife Deborah sitting by his side, who was also stepping back from this. The demands of the job are pretty insane. It's all consuming, and in the last 2 months, I've come to the realization I've decided to take a step back from the movie, to be with my family, to be with my kids who really need me. They are all having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. So that's what I want to look at, because you look at, this is a man who his daughter was from his first marriage, but
no matter who like the kids, like from his second marriage, they're all family, and like that's like I think I was talking to you in pre-show that like it. I know grief. I know pain.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us and your listeners definitely know it too. And what makes it harder is not only when it's your child, who's, like you said, I believe that they're supposed to die after you, but not only that, it's suicide, and then on top of that, it is you've got other children to kind of get through this with. My heart goes out with him in such a like I'm about to fucking cry right now. Like this is the hardest goddamn thing to deal with in the world.
Yeah, this is where I was getting at is, you have with her, him and Zack Snyder and Deborah had been raising 7 kids and stepkids. So I think they're including Autumn in that. And yet I was only saying because it was the first marriage, because she's, where she might not be Deborah's biological daughter. She's still very much her daughter and all that. But then it's like, you look at the other kids, and I mean, I'm pretty sure they're like, I think Autumn might've been the oldest. And so it's one of these, like, you got like, you now have to have a talk with all these other kids about why this happened. And I know it's a hard thing.
There's no time for your own personal grief.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you guys even wanted to go down that road of this conversation, but God damn it, our heart goes out to you, man.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, like, all I can say as a closer to this is grief, or go home, or, be with your family, grieve, mourn, come back and make some kick-ass movies when you are ready. Don't come back for our sake, come back for your sake. Sort of deal.
I think a lot of creative ventures, at least in my part, like when you see a lot of sock puppet videos, that's when you know that there's something wrong with Jackie Hearn. You know what I mean? Because that's when, like, I want to do something. I want to do something. I want to make something nice, but that also means I'm in a place to do it. Like, so you don't have to worry. But that is a terrible, hard thing. And I didn't mean to, I don't know, to go on about that. But I don't know the dude. I don't really know him. I did like Batman versus Superman a lot, and it pissed me off that, like, it got the criticism it did or whatever, but, like, I mean, who knows? Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, bottom line, man, like, yeah, that's yeah, that is the toughest situation to ever be in life. Even as someone who doesn't have kids and probably never will have kids, I get that completely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, sorry.
You don't have to be a fan of the guy's work to have empathy.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's a really hard thing to kind of address, particularly probably in your show. Like,
No,
where,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. All right,
I mean, especially when we're, we're just, horse shitting around
yeah, right,
news and
yeah,
stuff, and it's like, and Evan's even like, do we want to talk about this? I'm like, yes, because, I've been that fan. I've been that fan that's like, that, shit on his works here before, and if it would have said, hey, he stepped away, didn't say why, I've been like, ooh, wait, what's this going to do? Because I know he's heavily involved over there. And so the wheels would have started turning, but it was like stepping away for this reason. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I've seen people today see the headline, Zack Snyder stepping away from Justice League, Joss Whedon taking over, and react of like, oh, fantastic, because I love Joss Whedon, I love what he, not realizing, but they didn't realize what
they
was
weren't even
the
thinking.
deeper story.
Yeah.
Some people did. Some people were just like, I don't care why. This is just what I want.
Tomorrow.
But that's exactly it. Is that there's because people don't always read the stories. Some people just might be reacting in the sense of like, oh great, the person I want to direct DC stuff is going to be directing DC stuff, not knowing what the cause was, the whys of it, which is exactly why he spoke out at all.
Yeah.
It's really hard because people are going to then come at those people as the like, how can you say that? How can you be that way? And it's going to start people fighting who maybe don't even want to be fighting or have any kind of hate in them.
My God, over an issue that is terrible.
But then there are those people on the internet who just feel like I don't have to show empathy for anybody else, or I don't have to act like a human being, and I can just say whatever I want to say, and it doesn't matter because I'm just an inhuman void. And I just it's hugely frustrating, and that's why, like Gregor said, I've certainly had my criticisms on the filmmaking or story choices and things like that.
Of course,
but he's still a person, and I never try to attack him as a person. I talk about the art and my disagreements, and then he's also someone who's making art, which is far beyond what I'm doing. So me being critical is sort of bullshit anyways, because where's my art? What am I making that he can then be critical of? So it's one of those things. I understand fully that I'm just a guy ranting about movies and characters and stuff on the internet, but I'm also a human being, and as a human being, I don't ever want to see that happen to somebody. And we just had Chris Cornell's suicide this week.
Oh God!
Which affects a lot of people, which affects a whole different group of people. But I think we all feel the same sense of like, here was this person that maybe I didn't know, but maybe I looked up to, or maybe their art affected me in some way, and it changed me in some way, or it made me feel good when otherwise I wouldn't have felt good. And I felt a connection in that regard, and now they're gone. And I think that we should all kind of look at ourselves and say, maybe you didn't know Zack Snyder's daughter, or maybe you don't like Zack Snyder's movies, or whatever else. But just think about how you felt when you lost somebody. That's what you have to kind of concentrate on. And if you haven't lost somebody, good. But still recognize that other people have.
or like I was saying, lost someone, and then their loss affects the other people, the last remaining people around you that you love and give you reason to live, and then you see them suffer because of it, and you've got to, like that is the most tragic part of that whole story, is that you know what I mean.
That is going to do it for the news, and we will be right back.